Joe Biden continued to reiterate that he will pick a black woman, which again is kind of insane. The reason it's insane is because in any other context, that would just be racist. If he said, I need a white male, that would be racist. If he said, I need an Asian transgender little person, that would also be sort of strange. Okay, labeling people not by their belief system about the Constitution, but by their race and sex seems kind of counterintuitive when your entire shtick is that you're supposedly an anti-racist. But of course, we know that the Ibram X. Kendi anti-racist folks are the most racist people in America today. Here is Joe Biden pushing this.
The person I will nominate will be someone with extraordinary qualifications, character, experience, and integrity. And that person will be the first black woman ever nominated to the United States Supreme Court. It's long overdue in my view. I made that commitment during the campaign for president, and I will keep that commitment.
Now, I'm just going to point out right here that Joe Biden did vote against Clarence Thomas's nomination to the Supreme Court on the basis of the ridiculous Anita Hill accusations. Also, his party filibustered the woman who certainly would have been the first black woman on the Supreme Court, Janice Rogers Brown, when George W. Bush wanted to nominate her for the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. It was the Democrats who attempted to filibuster Janice Rogers Brown. They did the same thing with Hispanic American Miguel Estrada when it came to the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. So all of their affirmative action nonsense to the side, the reality is that what they mean is a person who believes like we believe, but also is going to fulfill certain intersectional checkboxes so I can go back to my constituents and I can pretend that I care deeply about them. That's what this is really about. Now, the amazing thing is that the media immediately went into full spin mode. And you could see that this was going to happen. Because as soon as Joe Biden had said, I need a black woman, everybody on the right went, okay, that's affirmative action and a violation of basic equal protection standards. Like in employment, if I just said today, I'm only hiring a producer who is a white male, I will not look at any other candidates, this would be a violation of equal protection. It would also be a violation of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. I'm not a government actor, so it wouldn't technically be an equal protection violation. It would be a Civil Rights Act violation. Okay, but he is a government actor, which means he's violating both. It doesn't matter. The media immediately has jumped into action to suggest that Republicans are pouncing. It's all about Republicans pouncing. So you have Aaron Blake writing for the Washington Post. Here's the title. The very selective effort to cast Biden's Supreme Court pick as an affirmative action hire. Wait, hold on. I don't have to cast it as that. He said it. He literally said it. I mean, I don't know. How else am I supposed to take, I need the first black woman? Am I supposed to take that does he not need the first black woman? Right, you'll notice that at the beginning of this particular episode, I put the phrase black woman in air quotes. The reason I put that in air quotes is because that's a Joe Biden quote. It is affirmative action. I don't know what else to tell you. I mean, they quote me saying it is definitionally affirmative action and race discrimination, which, of course, it is. But then Aaron Blake goes on, he says, well, there have been other presidents who have done this. Yes, and it was bad when they did it. Ronald Reagan promised he would appoint a woman to the Supreme Court in the 1980 presidential campaign, and then he ended up appointing Sandra Day O'Connor, who was a joke and a terrible justice. George H.W. Bush picked Clarence Thomas, but Clarence Thomas happens to be a really, really good justice. Okay, the fact that we have these sort of designated seats is ridiculous. It's ridiculous on its face. It's really stupid. And meanwhile, Jen Psaki is suggesting that the GOP is obliterating their own credibility by criticizing Biden's pick. Well, no, we are criticizing him for saying that he will only look at the race and sex of a person as a predominant characteristic. And also, we think that you're just going to select a Democratic apparatchik who's going to do whatever you want. Because that's what you guys do. Again, Democrats never miss on this stuff because they just find somebody who agrees with them politically and then appoint that person to the Supreme Court knowing they don't care about the Constitution.
We have not put out a list. The president made very clear he has not made a selection. And there are, if anyone is saying they plan to characterize whoever he nominates after thorough consideration with both parties as radical before they know literally anything about who she is, they just obliterated their own credibility.
Oh, man, talk about obliterating your own credibility. Jen Psaki, every single, that should be the title of her autobiography, Obliterating My Credibility, Jen Psaki story. Wow. And by the way, speaking of obliterating your credibility, it is fairly incredible that they are now attempting to go after Ilya Shapiro. He's been a guest on this program, of course. He is from Cato Institute. And now he's about to be a lecturer at Georgetown University. What did he do wrong? He said, quote, objectively best pick for Biden is Sri Srinivasan, who is a solid progressive and very smart, even has identity politics benefit of being the first Asian/Indian American, but alas, doesn't fit into the latest intersectional hierarchy, so we'll get a lesser black woman. Thank heavens for small favors. The fact that he used lesser black woman, they're now saying that he's racist. What he meant is a black woman with lesser credentials, obviously. But, None of it matters. They're trying to basically oust him from his position over at Georgetown anyway. So you have a guy named Mark Joseph Stern who's tweeting out. He says that Georgetown Law has hired him, so I feel an obligation to condemn him. There's a staff writer at Slate trying to get Ilya Shapiro canceled from his job because he is making clear that that the Biden administration is picking somebody who's not less qualified at least than the person that he described there. Again, affirmative action for Democrats. It only works one way. It's not affirmative action when they do it, even if they say it's affirmative action. Meanwhile, we all know the real reason, by the way, that they somehow convinced Justice Breyer to step down. The real reason they convinced him to step down is because they're about to get walloped. There's a brand new poll out of Georgia today from the Atlanta Journal-Constitution and the University of Georgia, and it finds Governor Brian Kemp right now up on Stacey Abrams by 7 points, despite all the controversy surrounding Kemp. Even Senator Perdue, the ex-senator, he beats Stacey Abrams by 4. Meanwhile, in the Senate, Herschel Walker is up 3 on Senator Raphael Warnock, 47-44. And according to polling data, actually, only 21% of Georgians say that an endorsement from Trump would make a candidate more attractive to them. Only 21%. 49% say that it would make a candidate less attractive to them. Now, you assume that includes, all the Democrats. But here's the bottom line. If you look at the approve versus disapprove ratings for various members of the Georgia delegation, they're not great for the Democrats. Ossoff is at 43. Warnock is at 44. Biden is at 34. So things are likely to get extremely ugly for Raphael Warnock in Georgia before things are over. Meanwhile, in Nevada, it looks like things are really ugly. By the way, it is also true that the Democrats have now engaged in precisely the same strategy that Donald Trump engaged in the Georgia election earlier this year. So you'll remember that Donald Trump, after he did not win Georgia, after that happened, he came out and he said that was because of voter fraud and your vote really doesn't count in Georgia. And a bunch of Republicans stayed home for the Senate elections, which is why you have now 2 blue senators from a red state. And that was because Donald Trump intervened and people from the rural areas did not vote in that senatorial election, which is a foolish move. Now Democrats are like, hey, let's do it too. Apparently, according to a new Quinnipiac poll, 45% of black voters in Georgia think it will be somewhat or very difficult to vote. Okay, now, how many believe that in 2020? 7%. 7%. 7% of black Democrats, not black Democrats, 7% of black voters in Georgia total said that they thought it was very difficult to vote in 2020. Now 45% say it is very difficult to vote. How many of those people are going to stay home just because they believe it's difficult to vote? So brilliant strategies here from the Biden administration. Just genius stuff. It is incredible how this administration just keeps shooting itself directly in the foot over and over and over again. If you shoot yourself in the foot, you shouldn't be surprised when your foot hurts. And that's exactly what is happening right now. And they can't stop, won't stop. Biden's Surgeon General literally came out yesterday and said that he wants Joe Rogan censored by big tech. I'm sorry. This is not the way you win hearts and minds here, gang.
We've got to do several things. Number one, we've got to recognize that our technology platforms, whether particularly social media, these have an important role to play. These are the predominant places where we're seeing misinformation spread. These platforms have still not stepped up to do the right thing and do enough, I should say, to reduce the spread of misinformation. This is not just about entertainment. It's not just about garnering clicks. This is about people's lives. And we have seen time and time again that misinformation costs people their lives.
So you have the Surgeon General of the United States calling for censorship of Joe Rogan. You keep going with this, guys. You have your narratives. Your narratives are completely at war with the experience of the American people. Keep trying to convince them not to believe the evidence of their own eyes. How's this for a title? Ben Shapiro Show subscriber destroys like button with clicks and logic. I'd watch that. Make it happen, gang.